do this.
Prior to today, I think the only time I've ever got up for anything at 5 a.m. is to catch a budget airline flight. And at least when I was at uni, 5 a.m. was often closer to bedtime than to wake up time. But I want to find out whether waking up at 5 a.m. is actually the magic bullet that every YouTuber, Instagrammer, or CEO seems to make out. So, being the selfless saint that I am, I tried it so that we can all get a better idea, hopefully, of what waking up at 5 a.m. is really like. Okay, so my dog actually woke me up at around 4:30 a.m. and I just couldn't get back to sleep, so decided to get up anyway. But, whatever. I do a quick round of press-ups, and at this point it's really just to try and get my body going and get somewhat out of sleep mode. I plan my morning just like usual, and the first thing that hits me is, well, how flippin' long the morning is when you're sat at your desk by 5:20. Having put my phone on good old do not disturb mode and thrown it across the room well out of reach, yes, you might not know this, but I am in fact a high risk, no look, over the shoulder throw kind of a guy. I then get to work on some civil litigation. I have my very last class of stage 1 later today. There are 2 stages to my law course, so I'm actually now starting to get my notes in order to begin revision. I put on the very same playlist I listen to every single time I play music while I'm working, and this playlist is 42 songs by just 3 artists: Tycho, Sigur Rós, and Olafur Arnalds. I find this familiarity, I must have listened to each of these songs literally hundreds of times, helps me focus on my work rather than the music. So right here, I'm going over the notes I printed for my previous mock exam, and by the end of the morning, I'll hopefully have printed all of the rest of the notes I need to revise for this subject. Big question though, how was I rating the whole wake up at 5 a.m. thing at this point? Well, I started work at around 5:45, and to be honest, I felt really pretty tired and found it kind of hard to really focus on the material I was covering for the first half an hour or so. I just didn't seem to be able to get my brain to properly process the words I was looking at, so I was reading them but they weren't really going in. But by around 6:15 it felt like I'd already been up for ages and had actually got a decent amount done, even if not on my usual rate of productivity, and I'd say that from then until 7:15 I was definitely nearing, although not quite at, my non-5 a.m. wake up levels of focus. Having now been working for an hour and a half, I grab my phone, make my bed and head downstairs to let Bramble out. That's my senile black Labrador who woke me up in the night and who can therefore take all of the credit for this video. Once I've taken her out, I decide to make my mum a cup of tea to earn some early brownie points while I leave the cleaning machine to do its thing.
Look to you, madam.
When I return, my precious coffee is ready. One of the beauties of being up this early is that I feel like I can have a slightly more leisurely breakfast than usual, so I actually decided to have a cooked breakfast. I scrap the half hour that I had originally planned for breakfast and take a good hour to enjoy my eggs, wilted spinach, cherry tomatoes, and whole grain toast. I then get changed, and today I'm going to wear a full body green and blue checked outfit, or perhaps not. I then freshen up, brushing my teeth and giving my hair a quick rinse to reduce the extreme levels of bedhead currently on show. I then plough on again for another hour and a half, making my civil litigation revision notes, and I've got to say that, again, I still feel a little tired, but really not that bad at all. The combination of coffee and the fact my breakfast was a little lower in sugar than my normal fruit and yogurt is definitely helping me feel focused in spite of my lack of sleep. One quick tip for you though, as it gets to around 10:15 when my study session is scheduled to finish, I'm just coming to the end of a section of my notes which might seem like wonderful timing, but, and this is a trick I know Ernest Hemingway is said to have used, not that my civ lit notes are quite the old man in the sea, but basically when you first come back to a session, it's often daunting to start something completely afresh from scratch with a blank page in front of you. Hemingway actually used to end a work session midway through a sentence. Now, you don't have to literally stop mid-sentence, but stopping when you're in the middle of something makes it much easier to then come back to work after your break, so I extend my session by 15 minutes until 10:30 to make a decent start on the next section of my notes before my break begins. During my break, I pop to the loo and FaceTime my girlfriend Beth for the scheduled 20 minutes, away from my desk, over on my bed, and that's really important. We haven't seen each other for 2 weeks now because of isolation, which, to be frank, sucks. But I persistently tried to compare our situation to people who went through the world wars, where I couldn't have just FaceTimed her or even messaged, and things would have been infinitely harder on both of us. And that, at least to some degree, puts some perspective on things. And again, I know it feels like I've already had so many study sessions throughout this morning, but that's kind of the point. And I'd say that my next hour and a half session was again pretty productive. Tiredness just doesn't really seem to be that big of an issue at this point. I do have a slightly sore stomach, which I often get when I'm stressed, anxious, and tired, and I reckon having only got 4 or 5 hours sleep last night isn't helping with that, but it's really not too bad. At 12:15, I then popped downstairs for a quick drink and then bore my mum for 15 to 20 minutes, updating her on just how much I've got done in a single morning. I can't quite get over it, before getting back to it for my fourth and final study session of the morning, a quick 45-minute blast before lunch at 1:30. So my review of the morning would be, after a difficult first hour or so until around 6:15, it's been pretty good. I've barely snacked at all and again feel as focused as I would generally expect to when just reading through stuff. Yes, I do lose focus every so often, but not much more than I usually would with 7 or 8 hours sleep, say. If anything, I think that the fact that I got up so early to be productive has focused my mind even more on the sacrifice I guess I made, i.e. the sleep that I lost this morning, and makes me all the keener to capitalize on that by having an amazingly productive day. After a lunch break of just over an hour watching Atypical, I'm now on season 3, a slender silver lining in the cloudy times that are isolation. At 2:45 I then finish the final civlit topic I have to consolidate until 3:30 when I print off all of the notes I've made, 180 pages in total between business law yesterday and civlit today. I'm really sorry, environment. Cross 2 things off my to-do list and then get ready for a 2-hour class, my last class of term for criminal litigation. Today, how the length of prison sentences are evaluated by judges. Completely irrelevant to anything I'll ever use in my actual job as a corporate lawyer, but much more interesting than the principles of insolvency law covered in my last Study With Me video, which you should of course watch. So I've got to admit I am flagging pretty badly, but now at 3:45 as I have this class, I really just have to follow along with what's being said, which is, to be honest, a lot less draining than motivating myself to study on my own.
Exhaustive list as far as the offence mitigation is concerned.
And having said that, wow, put it this way, not the most engaging session I've ever had. So yeah, right now I'd say I'm struggling for focus a bit more than I normally would. When this class eventually finishes, and this might really surprise you, I take almost 2 hours to sort my thumbnail for this video from 5:45 until 7:30. I'm working really hard at the moment to improve the quality of the thumbnails on my channel, as I think that's been the biggest thing that's been holding my channel back. I then tidy up and head out for a quick run, and I've got to say running around is really weird at the moment. There are so few other people, so few cars on the roads, it just feels all a bit eerie. But in spite of getting up so early, I still again feel pretty good on my run.
Wait. I think I just got flashed. See that? Definitely flashed me. Going so quickly.
I go a little slower than usual, but I think that's just because I was filming the whole thing. Plus, at 8 PM, I have a truly heartwarming experience and get to see a load of people out cheering our health service workers.
Activity completed. Workout summary. Total time 37 minutes 35 seconds. Total distance 6.23 kilometers.
When I get back, it's shower time, and that's my 5 AM wake up day more or less done. But now, time for a debrief. So, what is the conclusion of all that? Should you be getting up every day at 5 a.m? I think short answer, probably not, and here's why. If we look statistically at how well I did today, I did make pretty big gains. I probably gained about 2.5 hours first thing this morning between 5 a.m. and 7:30 a.m, which I wouldn't normally have. So that's around a 150-minute gain. And I reckon during the course of the day, as I got less productive towards the end of the day, I maybe lost half an hour to an hour. So that's 30 to 60 minutes loss, meaning that I ended up with a net gain of between 90 and 120 minutes, an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's pretty good. And when you look as a percentage of my overall productive time, that's probably a 20% increase in total productive time during a day, which is a lot. So on the face of it, it looks like it really worked. And on top of all that, I had quite a bit longer to enjoy a really nice chilled out breakfast this morning. So I made myself a cooked breakfast, which I never normally do. I never have time because I'm rushing to get my bowl of cereal and fruit down before my 9 a.m. class. So I think that was a massive benefit of getting up that much earlier, because I didn't have to rush. I didn't have to kind of get things done as quickly as possible all day. I felt like I had a bit more time to go at my own pace. All of this sounds amazing, Liam. So why are you not going to get up every single day at 5 a.m? Well, first of all, look at me. Aside from the fact my hair is ridiculous because lockdown, the other reason is that I am now really, really tired. Like, it's 9:30 now, I'm filming this, and I'm drained. I feel ready for bed. And I think for me, sustainably, I just don't want to be going to bed at 10 or 11 p.m. even. I think 11:30, 12 o'clock is about right for me, because it just gives me a bit of social time in the evening with other people who are then free around that time. It fits in with my calendar in terms of seeing my family in the evening, or seeing other people, seeing friends, although not at the moment, and then also seeing my girlfriend around that. So I think that's the main reason that for me it just wouldn't really be sustainable to get up at 5 a.m. every morning. I'd also say that I think the whole getting up at 5 a.m. thing is better suited to days when you're not doing tasks that are hugely mentally demanding. So today I was making notes, yes, and was kind of going over and reviewing stuff, but I wasn't mentally having to really strain myself to think of new ideas. Poltergeist? No, that is my light. It just randomly changes itself. I have no idea why it does that, but anyway. And so I think if you're doing that kind of task where it's relatively less mentally intensive, getting up at 5 a.m. definitely works, because it just buys you more time during the day. On the flip side of that, I think if I'd been memorizing all day or doing something like that, I really would have struggled by the time I got to this afternoon. So definitely won't be getting up at 5 a.m. every morning as I move into trying to memorize for my law exams. So I think for me, I definitely actually would do the 5 a.m. wake up thing again, but I wouldn't do it ever on less than around 6 hours sleep. So I think I would definitely want to try and get to sleep by 11 p.m. the night before. So it's now nearly 9:40, and as there's not a huge amount to do in isolation at the moment, I'm also seeing this as a great opportunity to be discovering new ways of learning and working myself. I've personally been working through some of Ali Abdaal's new masterclass on studying, available for free on Skillshare, and can say I've already picked up a few tips I'm going to be using as my exams approach. You can get unlimited access to the course by signing up for a free 2-month trial of Skillshare by following the link on screen now, and you won't have to pay at all if you cancel before the end of the 2 months. I am a Skillshare affiliate, so this also helps out my channel. And if you enjoyed this video, please also go and check out my 14-hour study day to get an insight into what a realistic day in my life looks like when I don't get up at 5 a.m, which is what I normally do. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to speaking to you again very, very soon.